Very well, and now the defense.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Isabel Carlton. Today I will be delivering the opening statement, the direct examination of Dr. Williams, and the cross-examination of Dakota Weirs.
Very well.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Jada Ninks, and I will be giving the direct examination of Skylar Weirs as well as the cross-examination of Dr. Casey Rogers.
Very well.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Brendan Maher. I will be direct examining Blake Duncourt, cross-examining Carson Durst, and delivering the closing argument. At this time, our witness would like to introduce themselves.
Yes, please.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is V. Wing, and I am Dr. Devin Williams.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Jet Fisher, and I am Blake Doncourt.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Mary Oswald, and I am Skylar Weirs.
Very well. Thank you for those introductions. If any of the scoring panelists have a conflict, please unmute and let us know now. Hearing none, I can declare that I have no conflict. So I think we are, oops, Mr. Walton, I saw something there for a second.
No, Judge, I'm good.
Okay,
For some
great,
reason,
wonderful.
yeah.
Not a problem. I just wanted to be sure that we didn't have a conflict. All right, Melissa, it looks like we're good in this courtroom. Let us know when you're ready for us to proceed.
You can proceed at any time. You're all good.
All right, here we go. We've already done the conflicts check. That's wonderful. And you guys have posted your rosters. That's great. This is being live streamed, and I am confident that someone somewhere is recording all this, but the rules do not allow other teams to record for purposes of scouting. So if there's anyone else in this particular Zoom room who is with another team, not one of the teams competing today, I would ask you to please leave. We are not going to have recesses, with the exception of a health emergency, and the term health emergency is left intentionally vague. Unless you're at the podium or speaking or as a witness, anybody else can leave at any time without even, I don't think you don't need to raise your hand or ask permission. If you need to go make a break, you can do that. We will let you decide if it's urgent enough to leave the microphone during your testimony or during your performance. If so, then we might have, depending on how it all works, we might just recess briefly, but we've got a hard stop at 4 o'clock. So we're going to work hard on that one. Let me see. Disputes arising out of the competition must be reported in accordance with the competition rules. You already knew that. Compliance with time requirements will be considered in scoring. Do we have a score? I mean, not a score, a timer for each team in the chat room here?
The plaintiff does, Your Honor.
Okay. And what about the defendant? Do we have a scoring team for the defendant?
Yes, the
Scoring
defense
team.
does,
Let me
Your
start
Honor.
over. I don't know why I've got that in my head. Timing member for the defendant.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What I want you two to do is to post in the chat the times after every event, like whatever, like the first scoreable event, just post in there whatever time you've got. If you guys have a little bit of a conflict on which one is right, try and resolve that amongst yourselves. If you can't, I will resolve it, but we've not had a problem so far. And I want you to let us know before the final arguments how much time is left, and particularly on the plaintiff side, how much is left after the opening part of the last argument. I'm going to build in a small delay, not a lot, but a small delay, maybe 15, 20 seconds after every scoreable event to allow the scorers to actually compile their numbers and make notes. So I will, what I will ask you to do is to hold up a little bit. I will tell you when you may proceed, and then you can go ahead and kick right off. It won't be long. Just wait on me to say you may proceed. All right, and now I need to offer everyone the opportunity to take an oath. So let's see. The team members, please raise your right hand if you will. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? If you do, say yes.
Yes.
All righty, very well. Put your hands down.
Yes.
Witnesses now, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? If so, say yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good, thank you. And now, first scoring panelists, you can raise your virtual hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. A little bit of a administrative thing, because we have a hard stop coming on at 4 because you need to be out of here. We're not going to have time for a lot of comments. I might make a comment or two while the scorers are finishing their sheets, but probably not more than that. And then once we are given the all clear, then we will dismiss you. Although, know this, we will have an amazing amount of input for you, because that's just what we do and how we as much as we care to do this, to help guide you. I might send my notes to the Bar Association to be passed on to the teams. Who knows? Either way, please don't consider it to be a dislike of anything you've done if you don't get a lot of comments. Okay, I just want you to understand that. All righty. With that, do we have any other housekeeping or preliminary matters on behalf of the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a few preliminary matters, but before diving into it, I was wondering if it would be all right with you in the chamber to allow for visual aids from our timekeeper. For example, as 5 minutes have passed on direct.
Yeah, we've been doing that in the past, holding up a little card that says, hey, this is how much you got left. And no problem at all. I think that's a good plan. Okay.
All right, awesome. Then I have some preliminary matters to address if that's all right with you.
Yes, please.
All right, my first preliminary address is we do not screen share the exhibits, but rather assume that everyone has the copy in front of them that we can directly refer to, rather than pulling it up on the screen in order to reference the witness to it.
That's right. I mean, you can screen share if you wish, but you don't have to. I mean, I've got a copy here on the bench, and I believe the scoring panelists probably do as well. So that's not a problem. You don't have to do that. It's not part of the rules. Go ahead.
Awesome. And then following from this, if I can get a confirmation that everyone has a copy of the exhibits, that'd be great, just to keep the trial running smoothly at a later date.
Well, I have a copy, not by everyone. I don't know who you include in that circle.
Just the other attorneys and witnesses.
Oh, I'm sure the other attorneys
Okay.
do. I guarantee they do. As far as the witnesses on your own side, that's your responsibility. You guys take care of that internally, and they will do the same on their side.
Awesome. Thank you, Your Honor. Our second preliminary matter is for either witnesses or attorneys alike to either sit or stand based on their comfort level and ability at the time of their direct statement, closing, or otherwise.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either way. In fact, being seated makes more sense. So if you feel comfortable being seated, please. But if you stand, then please adjust the camera so that your head's not cut off. We'd like to keep seeing you.
All right, and then thank you, Your Honor. And the final preliminary matter is for the plaintiff to reserve any remaining time left over on the closing for a rebuttal closing following the delivery of the defense closing statement.
Yep. I've already told the timekeepers to give you that time, and that's up to you to decide how much to reserve. You can go on as long as you like.
All righty, thank you, Your Honor. That is all for the preliminary matters on behalf of the defense.
Very good. Do we have any preliminary matters on behalf of the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor. On behalf of both teams, let the record reflect that one of my team members will be posting the appropriate trial rosters for competition in the Zoom chat for the purpose of exchanging rosters as a preliminary matter.
Yeah, I think it's already been done, if I'm not mistaken. I saw it there.
Okay. Also, let the record reflect that both teams have agreed to the stipulated facts and jury instructions for this case, and they will also be entered into this chat for yourself and for the jury to be considered constructively read into the record.
Right. It's also part of the problem which we've been provided. So yes, it's there.
Your Honor, we also request the court's preference on recross examinations.
Recross is not generally permitted. There is a possibility if something new comes up on redirect, which I think demands a recross, then I would permit it very, very limited. But I've only allowed this like once in the last, I don't know, 10 years or longer of doing this.
All right.
Just let you know. Don't count on it, I guess.
Thank you. Additionally, we ask that all evidence be deemed to have been constructively handed to opposing counsel for their review.
Of course.
And Your Honor, if at any point in the trial, if the court cannot see or hear the witness or attorney, please feel free to interrupt us at any point.
Oh, you don't have to give me permission to interrupt. I'll do it anyway. But thank you.
Of course. And that's all. No further preliminary matters to attend to at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, so is everybody ready to go then on opening statements?
Real quick, Your Honor, it looks like our timekeeper was briefly disconnected and is unable to rejoin the Zoom. I was wondering if you could let her in. They're currently in the waiting room.
Well,
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm on it.
okay, Melissa is the smartest person I know.
Oh, I don't know
She's
about
going
that.
to make this happen.
It appears actually there was a technical issue with the Wi-Fi. If I can just get like up to 2 minutes max just to fix it real quick.
Sure, if you can fix
Thank
it. Yeah, please, let's fix things now. But we're already at,
I know. And I'm not seeing anybody in the waiting room, guys, so.
well, if she's in the same building, maybe they can.
Yep. Hoping.
We'll punt if we have to.
Okay.
Hi, so I guess we are in the same room right now with the timekeeper. So my co-counsel is just working on that right now.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, and if she can do that without delaying us any further, then I'd really appreciate if we could go forward. Is that something we can do?
Let me ask real quick how that's going.
Oh, well, I didn't know who's going to give the opening. If it's you and you're not otherwise involved, then we're already there.
Yeah, I can give the opening right now if everybody's ready.
Well, let's do that. If you, and that way they can work behind the scenes. Okay, opening argument on behalf of.
And I'll keep an eye out for the timekeeper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. We are here today to establish truth, and in doing so, justice. We are here today to ensure that no powerful entity can take advantage of any individual for personal gain. We are here today to secure justice for Miss Dakota Weirs, a victim of negligence. Miss Weirs suffers from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, an incurable disease that has wreaked havoc on her lifestyle. Yet, she wasn't always a victim. Miss Weirs' life was blossoming before her illness. She was an active member of her community, serving at the local homeless shelter and excelling in her class. Miss Weirs worked as a landscaping technician for years, earning money to pay for her.
It looks like we may have lost
Her big dreams.
Mackenzie.
Her to her late grandmother.
I apologize, but we lost you for just a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
You're back. You're back.
That's okay. Is there a specific point you need me to pick up?
We only missed about 10 seconds, so back up about 15 or so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
My pleasure. Miss Weirs suffers from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, an incurable disease that has wreaked havoc on her lifestyle. Yet, she wasn't always a victim. Miss Weir's life was blossoming before her illness. She was an active member of her community, serving at the local homeless shelter and excelling in her class. Miss Weirs worked as a landscaping technician for years, earning money to pay for her big dreams. Her biggest passion, playing the piano, connected her to her late grandfather who had taught her the instrument. This talent also opened up numerous doors for her. Her future looked bright and her dreams within her grasp. Miss Weirs was reaching new heights until her newly diagnosed disease overshadowed her life and ripped apart her passions and opportunities, tearing her roots out from under her. Our talented friend could barely help around the house, rendering her incapable of giving back to her community and achieving her same academic and extracurricular standards. Tragically, Miss Weir's bright future was suddenly clouded. Unable to sit at a piano for long periods of time due to pain, fatigue, bruising, and more, she lost her remaining connection to her grandfather and her bright future as a Juilliard pianist. Our young flower was cut down before her prime, withered and crestfallen. It is our job, our duty, to gain compensation for the damage done to Miss Weir's life. To gain recompense for Miss Weir's, we must seek out those responsible. The multi-million-dollar company, Lush Fertilizer. Miss Weirs worked closely with Lush Fertilizer for many years. She was unaware of the potential dangers of the fertilizer and protected herself the same as many of her coworkers did. The main component of this fertilizer, Drufo, both set the company apart from its competitors and set the stage for Miss Weir's health complications. We will prove, by a preponderance of evidence, that the company Lush Fertilizer is responsible for Miss Weir's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. To do so, we will prove 4 key elements: that Lush made a dangerous product, that Lush was negligent in issuing reasonable caution, that the reasonable plaintiff used this product, and that the plaintiff is now suffering damages caused by Lush. To establish these elements, 3 witnesses will be called on behalf of the plaintiff. First, you will hear from Dr. Casey Rogers. Dr. Rogers has an impressive educational and professional background and has also researched and done experiments on the effects of Drufo for many years. She will provide undeniable evidence that Drufo is a dangerous carcinogen that does cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Next, you will hear from Carson Durst. Mix Durst has a bachelor's in chemical engineering and is a former employee of Lush Fertilizer. They will provide irrefutable evidence that Lush Fertilizer took steps to conceal research pointing towards the dangers of their namesake product. Finally, you will hear from Dakota Weirs. Dakota is the heroine of our story, bravely fighting this cancer caused by exposure to Drufo. She will lay out her work history, how she came to suspect Lush Fertilizer and Drufo, and provide evidence that Lush Fertilizer, through their negligence, failed to warn customers about potential hazards. The defense will call up 3 other witnesses: the CEO of the large company, Blake Doncourt, who was in line for a pretentious award, only to be knocked out of the running because of this lawsuit. You will then hear from Dakota Weir's twin, Skylar Weirs, known for their journalistic career surrounding flat earth theory, chemtrails, anti-vax culture, and Drufo. Lastly, Dr. Devin Williams, a paid employee of Lush Fertilizer who had the single responsibility of ensuring that Drufo was not carcinogenic. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is imperative that you look at the facts as they are presented to you. Lush Fertilizer planted the poison that would devastate and destroy Miss Weir's life. The plaintiff will lay out the hard facts of the case, proving that Lush Fertilizer is responsible for the constant suffering experienced by Miss Weirs. In the process, we will also prove the defense's case to be weak and rootless. Studies confirm the potential cancer-causing characteristics of Drufo, and evidence proves that upper management at Lush Fertilizer blatantly ignored these warnings. The evidence alone proves the clear negligence displayed by the wealthy company. Members of the jury, we must not allow such disregard for human suffering to go uncorrected. Emotional stress, inconvenience, and emotional damages have overshadowed Miss Weir's life, and it is our duty to offer compensation for it. Thank you.
Perfect. We're not going to penalize you for time because we sort of robbed you of about 15 seconds. So there's something to be considered in that as well.
Thank you.
Very well. Is there an opening on behalf of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Give it a little second here, please.
Of course.
All right, you may proceed.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury, miscalculated, misplaced, and misused. Since the year 2000, Blake Doncourt has grown our client, Lush Fertilizer Incorporated, after years of thorough research and development and significant capital, into one of the world's largest suppliers of yard and commercial fertilizers. Lush Fertilizer was the flagship product that allowed businesses and individuals alike to produce a vibrant green grass that is made possible through Lush's patented bonding agent, Drufo. Lush Fertilizer Incorporated and Blake Doncourt are focused on the environment and reducing pollution. They donated 10% of their annual earnings towards charities focusing on decreasing the world's global nitrogen footprint. They also have been instrumental in helping create state and national legislation to further educate on environmental issues worldwide. However, we are here today because the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, asserts that Lush Fertilizer's bonding agent, Drufo, was knowingly carcinogenic. Dakota Weirs, a landscaping technician since 14 years old, developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using Lush Fertilizer tragically, along with an array of other chemicals. Dakota Weirs is seeking damages, asserting that our client, Lush Fertilizer Incorporated, knew Drufo was carcinogenic, yet they ignored research and data concluding so. Misplaced, miscalculated, and misused. Their extensive research and testing before the release of their product did not identify any such link between Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Since there was little to no risk to the persons using the fertilizer, there was no need under state or federal laws to put a warning on their product. However, there is a label stating preventative measures that could be taken by the users to avoid inhalation or skin exposure. Today, you will hear from 3 witnesses from the defense: Dr. Devin Williams, the lead of toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer Incorporated; Skylar Weirs, an investigative journalist with knowledge of modern agritech and the twin sibling of the plaintiff; and finally, Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated. Dr. Devin Williams will testify to her involvement in the development of Drufo, the research that went into developing the chemical, as well as her expert opinion on the miscalculated studies researching Drufo by other professionals. Skylar Weirs will testify to her involvement in the development of Drufo, the research that went into developing the chemical, as well as her expert opinion on the on how the chemical Drufo was misplaced by being designated as a carcinogen. She will also testify to her relationship with the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs. Lastly, Blake Doncourt will testify to the responsible and harm reductive nature of the company, the amount of extensive research that went into the production of Lush Fertilizer, and his connection to Carson Durst. Miscalculated, misplaced, and misused. The plaintiff will call 3 witnesses as well: Dakota Weirs, the plaintiff who has developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma; Carson Durst, a former employee of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated that was fired and got employed by the biggest competitor of Lush; and Casey Rogers, a professor at the University of California at Berkeley. As the defense, we do not hold the burden of proof. That responsibility lies upon the plaintiff. They must prove these following statements: that Lush Fertilizer contains the bonding agent Drufo; Lush Fertilizer Incorporated was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating unreasonable harm; Dakota Weirs was reasonably expected to use said product; and that Dakota Weirs' damages were caused by the negligence of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated, as she used the product in a manner that was reasonably expected. If you find any of these 4 statements have not been proved, then your verdict must be for the defense. And if you find all 4 of these statements have been proved, we ask that you consider the negligence and the pain and suffering that was brought on by the plaintiff's own negligence. Miscalculated, misplaced, and misused. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. If you could get your first witness on the stand and ready to testify, we will commence in just a second. Call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
Dr. Casey Rogers. Dr. Rogers, you are still under oath. Let's see, this is,
May I proceed, Your Honor?
well, I don't see the witness.
Oh, is the witness not up? Apologize.
Witness, announce yourself.
Hi, I'm here.
Ah, there you are. There you
Okay.
are. All right, so now we see.
Perfect.
All right, you may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, let's start by just stating your name for the jury, please, and spelling the last.
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
And doctor, what brings you to the courthouse today?
I was contacted by the prosecution to testify on behalf of the plaintiff and offer my expertise.
And is there anywhere we can see your qualifications?
Yes, I've provided the court with my curriculum vitae.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am now directing both the witness and opposing counsel to what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6.
Okay, Exhibit 6, thank you.
Doctor, is that your curriculum vitae?
Yes, it is.
And what's included in the document?
It's a comprehensive list of my qualifications.
And is the copy fair and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe sufficient foundation has been laid and I move to have Exhibit 6 entered as evidence.
Any objection?
At this time, Your Honor, I have no objections.
Very well, Exhibit 6 will be admitted.
Doctor, looking at your CV, it seems quite extensive. Would you care to give a rundown of your education requirement or qualifications for the jury?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. I believe that this response calls for cumulative as you have now been published the CV. The jury has also been published the CV, and it would be a waste of the court's time to go over every single detail of this CV as it has been presented in front of you today.
Respond.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Of course.
This question is establishing foundation for both further questioning and qualifying Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in her field.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I think it's fair for a witness to be questioned about the CV, so I'll overrule.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you like me to re-ask the question, Doctor?
I got it. I'm currently a professor of horticulture and entomology at the University of California at Berkeley, which is also where I received my PhD in the same field. I also received my Bachelor's of Science degree in agriculture and chemistry from Colorado State University.
And to clarify for the jury, could you explain what horticulture and entomology are?
Yes, of course. Horticulture focuses on the scientific processes that go into cultivating and maintaining gardens, greenhouses, and so on, whereas entomology is the study of insects.
Given that background, do you have any experience studying the effects of different chemicals used in agriculture on humans?
Yes, I have studied the prolonged effects of chemicals on the human body for years.
And do you have any experience with that in the field, Doctor?
Yes, I have conducted many studies myself relating to different chemicals used in the field, which have both been published and used as litigation in administrative advisory boards.
And is there somewhere where we can see all these studies?
I believe it is Exhibit 7 that has all my published studies.
Your Honor, may I direct the witness and opposing counsel to direct their attention to Exhibit 7?
Well, Exhibit 7.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, this is a list of your publications.
Yes.
And which of the following publications pertain to this case?
I conducted a study on the ill effects of human exposure to Drupa.
And is the list fair and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe sufficient foundation has been laid, and I move to have Exhibit 7 entered into evidence.
Any objection?
I have no objection at this time, Your Honor.
Very well, it will be admitted.
Moving on, Doctor, let's discuss specifically your study on Drufo. Could you tell the jury how you conducted this study?
I put together 3 treatment groups. One is a control group with no contact to Drufo, one with occasional contact to Drufo, and those with regular, almost daily contact.
Please continue, Dr. Rogers.
I then tracked these groups over the course of years after exposure and tracked various health conditions of all groups. Then the 2 groups with exposure were compared to the control group.
Your Honor, I believe that sufficient foundation has been laid to qualify Dr. Rogers to offer expert testimony pertaining to agriculture and toxicology.
Any objection or voir dire?
Your Honor, I have no objections at this time. I just ask that the witness stay within the testimony of agriculture and toxicology.
Very well. The witness will be admitted as an expert in the areas of agriculture and toxicology.
Doctor, continuing with that study, what were the results?
The study found that groups with exposure to Drufo experienced alarmingly higher rates of health conditions than the control group, specifically cancer, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Anything else, doctor?
The study also found that serious health conditions increased proportionally with more exposure to Drufo. The group with occasional exposure was 5 times more likely to experience severe health conditions.
Objection, Your Honor. This testimony strays outside of the witness's expertise, as they have not been entered as a medical expert or to qualify into regards to the effects of prolonged exposure to chemicals. They have only been entered as an expert in agriculture and toxicology, and therefore cannot meet the requirements to give a medical testimony today for the court.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Of course.
Your Honor, toxicology is the study of effects of different chemicals and their effect on the human body. And this study that Dr. Casey Rogers did herself is a simple toxicology study. And I believe that she should be able to testify about this study that is specifically relating to different chemicals and their effect on the human body.
If I may, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
This witness is leading into a medical testimony in terms of diagnosis and what the cancer-causing chemicals are. I do not believe that she has the expertise to talk to the jury today about what medical conditions have arisen due to the exposure and or to give a medical diagnosis.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I'm going to let you go into that matter as to the weight her testimony should be given on cross-exam, but I'm going to overrule for now.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will proceed. Dr. Rogers, what were the results of your study?
The study found that the people with exposure to Drufo had alarmingly higher rates of health conditions than the control group, specifically cancer and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And in your expert opinion, what do those results illustrate?
These results illustrated a strong correlation between Drufo and cancer, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And based on those findings, what conclusions, if any, would you draw about someone who had been exposed to Drufo for many years, like the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs?
I could conclude that she would have a much higher risk of developing severe health conditions, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all I have this time.
Very well. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Hello, Dr. Rogers. You testified about a study you conducted concerning Drufo.
Yes, I did.
And this study utilized a control group of people who had never been exposed to Drufo?
Yes, it had a control group and then occasional exposure and people who were exposed daily.
And this study included farm laborers.
It did, yes.
These laborers who have been exposed to numerous other chemicals as well during this study.
You could say that. I wouldn't really know what other chemicals they've been exposed to.
Is that a yes or a no?
I feel like I answered that appropriately. I couldn't say. I'm not really sure.
But the study does not account for the other chemicals that the farmers could have been exposed to in their job.
Well, no, because this study was specifically looking at Drufo and its health conditions that it causes.
So you cannot account for the other chemicals being involved within the study?
No, I'm not sure what other chemicals they could have used.
I'd now like to address some further aspects of your study. In your study, you made some recommendations for using protective clothing when using Drufo.
I did, yes.
Such as wearing long sleeves?
Yes.
Medical grade protective face masks?
I did say that, yes.
And pants?
Yep.
And all of these recommendations were made to reduce exposure and related risks to dangerous chemicals.
You could say that, but my study didn't really go into like how those affected the health conditions.
However, protective gear was not provided by Lush, but was rather to be provided by the landscaping companies themselves.
I wouldn't know what Lush provided.
And if there was to be testimony that someone did not wear protective clothing, this would contradict your recommendation.
I'm a little confused by your
Objection, Your Honor.
question.
I believe the question calls for a vague answer.
Response.
Your Honor, I'm asking as to whether or not this witness's own recommendations that she made as an expert witness in her study, if they were to be not made, if someone else were to go against them, if that would be going against her own recommendation.
Well, I know what you're asking, but his objection was asking for a vague answer. What's your response to that?
Your Honor, I believe my question is pretty to the point, and I believe it provides a means for the witness to answer accordingly.
I agree. It's overruled.
Could you re-ask your question?
Yes, Dr. Rogers, if there was to be testimony that someone did not wear protective clothing when utilizing Drufo, this would contradict your own recommendations?
I would say so, yes.
Your recommendations, however, were found inconclusive, correct?
Well, I didn't fully study it, how they would affect the health conditions.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a yes.
And specifically in regards to the plaintiff, as part of your investigation, you reviewed Dakota's medical records, correct?
Yes, I did.
As well as employment records.
Yes.
But you didn't indicate that you reviewed all of the other chemicals that Ms. Weirs had been exposed to in her years of working at Haven Landscape.
Those other chemicals weren't known carcinogens like Drufo is.
But you did not review these in your study, did you?
Because they weren't carcinogens, there was no need for me to look at them.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a no. There was no need for it.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I have no further cross-examination.
Very well. Any redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. You may step down. Please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Carson Durst to the stand.
Carson Durst.
Good afternoon, Ms. Durst.
Hold on just a second.
My apologies.
I know. Everybody wants to run ahead. Let us catch up here. And I don't see Ms. Durst on with a camera on. Am I missing?
Your Honor, I think is my camera working?
There you are. I find you now. Very well. All right. Very good. Yeah, and now you may proceed, Ms. Dana.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Durst. Please state your name and spell it out for the record.
Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
I'll begin your direct examination now if you're ready. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I am the lead product developer for Terrace Greenery and have been since 2006. And I currently am the head of the research and development team. As the head of the R&D team, I oversee the development of safe fertilizers and lawn enhancement products.
What does your educational background look like?
I received a bachelor's in chemical engineering at Arizona State University in 2003.
How did you begin your career in the fertilizer industry?
Shortly after graduating, I was hired by Lush Fertilizer as an intern for the product development team in June of 2003. Positions like that are nearly impossible to get out of college with no experience, but I was lucky to have a few connections.
And what connections were those?
The CEO of Lush Fertilizer, Blake Doncourt, was the parent of my childhood best friend, Charles Doncourt. As a result, I was very close to the family growing up. Charles informed me that Lush Fertilizer was hiring interns for the summer, so I applied.
How did your connection with Blake Doncourt affect your work in his company?
My connection with Blake Doncourt certainly opened up the opportunity for me. However, it was through my own hard work and expertise that I earned my position as a product development engineer.
I'd now like to focus more on your experience with Drufo while working for Lush Fertilizer. What was your main assignment at Lush Fertilizer?
Oh, well, I was assigned to help research the effects of Drufo, the bonding agent that Lush developed to keep fertilizers preserved and intact.
How did you help in the development of Drufo?
Drufo began its development in 2001. So by the time that I got there in 2003, the company was testing the safety of the chemical. I was tasked with researching one of the chemical compounds that comprised Drufo and recording that analysis on the compound in my notebook.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to Exhibit 3. Let the record reflect that we are looking at our own copies of Exhibit 3.
Well, Exhibit 3.
Ms. Durst, do you recognize this?
I do.
What is it?
It's a study from England concluding that a certain chemical compound was carcinogenic in rats.
How are you related to this study?
I found the study while researching at Lush Fertilizer. I documented the study in my lab notebook on June 10th, 2003.
How does this study relate to your research as a whole?
This study actually explores the effects of the particular chemical compound that I was assigned to research.
Has this study been altered in any way since you last saw it?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid sufficient ground and move that Exhibit 3 be entered as evidence.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay.
May I respond?
Yes.
Your Honor, Ms. Durst was employed to research and file studies on the effects of Drufo. This study report was filed as a part of Ms. Durst's job and falls under the business record exception.
If I may, Your Honor,
Please.
I don't believe there's been sufficient evidence enough to say that this is a part of their regularly conducted business activity, and I believe that it's being still offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
All right. I'm going to sustain for now and ask you to lay a further foundation.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, when did you find this study?
I found the study while I was researching for Lush Fertilizer. We were tasked to look at various studies and various different sources to determine the safety of particular chemical compounds that we were assigned to look into.
Did you file this study in your research notebook?
I did. I actually filed this into my notebook on June 10th, 2003.
Did you use this as a part of your research for Lush Fertilizer?
Yeah, after filing it into my notebook, we send those notebooks off to our senior management, and that's a part of my research as Lush Fertilizer. And as an intern at Lush Fertilizer, I was required to do that.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid further ground and move that Exhibit 3 be entered as evidence.
Any renewed objection?
No objection at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. Exhibit 3 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, what did this study explore?
This study found that the particular chemical compound nitrogenous phosphorus carbonate in Drufo may actually be carcinogenic or highly likely to cause cancer in rats.
What was notable about this study?
Although this study did not deal with the effects of Drufo on humans, the impact it had on the rats is still cause for concern and gives us all the more reason to investigate the chemical and its impacts even further.
Ms. Durst, was management involved in the research process?
Yes, when we completed our findings for the period, we would turn them into our product manager.
To the best of your knowledge, what happens after you turn in your research notebooks to Lush?
Usually, the product manager in our case, Jerry Langley, would review everyone's notebooks and compile them into a singular report to show senior management. I don't know why that would have changed in this specific instance.
Your Honor, I'm now going to refer the witness to Exhibit 4. Let the record reflect that we are looking at our own copies of Exhibit 4.
Very well.
Ms. Durst, do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's an email from my old product manager, Jerry Langley.
What is your relationship to it?
It was sent to me and my fellow researchers at Lush Fertilizer the September following our initial research campaign.
Has this email been altered in any way since you last saw it?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, I believe that I have laid sufficient foundation and move that Exhibit 4 be entered as evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I object to hearsay as well as best evidence.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, this email was sent by a member of the opposing party, and therefore it falls under the admission against interest exception.
Response to that, please.
Your Honor, that does cover my hearsay objection, but I do want to bring up a best evidence objection.
All right, please be specific on your best evidence then.
As a proof, I will be bringing up on the direct examination of Blake Doncourt this email exactly because he is the CEO and will talk about the plaintiff's lawyers being able to have access to the email system, and that there was no such email. This email does not exist on their entire email system, and I believe that it is fraudulent.
Lay a further foundation, counsel, on the authenticity, if you would, please.
Yes, of course, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, when was this email sent to you?
Well, after we had concluded our initial campaign in the summer of 2003, this was sent to us in September.
Was this email sent to more than just one person?
Yes, it was sent to a number of my coworkers.
And was this email sent within the regular course of your business at Lush Fertilizer?
It was, yeah. We often, exchanged communication via email.
Were emails like this common at Lush Fertilizer?
After reports and whatnot, I would say we definitely did communicate about research and what management thought about our research.
Your Honor, I believe I have laid further foundation and move that Exhibit 4 be entered as evidence.
Is there any objection based upon what you've heard now?
Yes, Your Honor, I still lay the best evidence, seeing as I don't believe anybody in this courtroom today will testify to the validity of this email other than Carson Durst.
Well, very well. I'm going to go ahead and overrule the objection. I understand where you're going to go with impeachment, but I think it's been qualified as far as an exhibit. Exhibit 4 would be it.
Yes,
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, what did the email entail?
Within the email, Jerry informed us that Lush management wanted to reopen a study on overall conclusions, including investigating concerns on the validity of the claim that Drufo was carcinogenic in people. However, the actual email was pretty vague.
After the second wave of research was completed, what happened?
Well, we had concluded our analysis in December of 2003. We were gathered to discuss our findings with Jerry and higher up management, Alex Monroe.
Did your fellow scientists mention anything concerning?
Yes, actually, one fellow scientist of mine did express concern that Drufo may be both carcinogenic and linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Then what happened?
We were told to keep what was said as somewhat classified. However, about a month later, a copy of the study report at my desk.
What did the study report contain?
The report, it said that more analysis was needed before any conclusions about the likelihood that the chemical compound causing any long-term health effects, including cancer, could be made.
Was anything else mentioned in the report?
Well, the report recommended that baking Drufo could eliminate it as a possible carcinogen.
I would now like to focus on the potential financial motives for Lush Fertilizer in relation to Drufo. Were you aware of anything that set Lush apart from competitors?
Yes, I was aware.
And what was that?
That was Drufo.
To the best of your knowledge, how did Drufo help enhance Lush Fertilizer's business?
Drufo produced fertilizer with texture and longevity that set it apart from many of Lush's competitors, helping them to gain financial success.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. No further questions, Your Honor.
Well, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durst.
Hang on just a second. Let me, don't start the time yet. Let me,
Sorry about that. No.
My apologies, Your Honor. My computer seems to be dying. So is it okay if I move to a separate location to just a little closer to an outlet? It'll take 10 seconds top.
Yeah, please. Let's don't have an interruption. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Tom.
That'll allow us to kind of get caught up anyway.
I'm ready to take all the world. It is everything you dreamed of. It is nothing you expect. Well, I'm keeping a secret. I wouldn't tell anybody. It's hard to know who to trust.
Hey, you're unmuted.
The mystery that it does. It is the miracle of the
My apologies, Your Honor.
No, don't apologize for fixing a problem that I was about to explode the whole thing. All right, Mr. Meyer, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, then you may proceed.
Mixed Durst, you work at Terrace Greenery since 2006,
That is correct. Yes, I have.
and your application actually got accepted there before you were fired from Lush, correct?
That is correct.
And that broke your non-compete agreement with Lush,
It did.
and that ended in a lawsuit.
Yeah, the legal battle was actually settled 15 years ago, and I had to wait 6 months to start my new employment.
And you applied there because you knew you were going to be fired from Lush soon, right?
Objection, relevance. We're not here today to discuss Mixed Durst's former employment or formal legal issues with that employment. We are here today to discuss Drufo and whether or not it is carcinogenic in people.
Your Honor, if I may.
Of course.
I want to talk about the bias that might be set for Mixed Durst today to testify against her former company, or their former company, sorry about that. And I just want to show that, or I'm laying foundation to see if that bias is actually there.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I think you're within the proper bounds of where you can go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
You're fine, counsel. I heard your question. So I applied to Terrace Greenery not because I thought I was going to be fired, but because I saw that I didn't deserve to be disrespected at Lush, because I was disrespected at Lush, and so I saw that I had no place here.
And you felt disrespected because you were betrayed by Blake Doncourt, wasn't?
I felt disrespected mainly because he talked to me in a disrespectful tone. He yelled at me when I approached him in a calm manner.
But did you not feel betrayed by Mr. Doncourt?
I did feel betrayed a little bit because I had expected not only just the CEO, but my employer to not only treat me with respect, but be able to take my concerns about management with respect as well, and with, seriousness.
And you even got told by him to grow up and do your job.
I did. He made the comment under a lot of emotional duress, so I don't think the validity of the claim can be.
And this was after you went to him about a bad performance review.
It was when I went to him after multiple unfair and biased reports.
And that wasn't the first time you went to him about a bad performance review. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And the first time you went, Mr. Doncourt refused to intervene. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And he even brought up how many qualified applicants he overlooked to hire you.
He did bring that up. However, I do believe because he was under such emotional duress because of his divorce, that he may have just said that in the heat of the moment.
So that's a yes, he did say that to you.
He did say that to me.
And you believed that you performed at a higher level than more experienced engineers than yourself.
Objection, relevance. Mixed Durst beliefs on their own performance compared to their coworkers is not relevant to today's case.
Your Honor, if I may, it still relates to the bias that the Mixed Durst might have because of their own opinion and their own bias about their situation.
Objections overruled. Proceed.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, counsel.
And you believed you performed at a higher degree or a higher level than more experienced engineers than yourself.
That is why I was able to get promoted within 3 months of my.
And that all of this led to you applying at Terrace Greenery.
What led to my application at Terrace Greenery was that I was disrespected, not necessarily the fact that I was promoted, if that's what you're asking.
And you applied at Terrace Greenery to get back at Mr. Doncourt. Isn't that right?
I was a little heated at the moment. However, any residual resentment from 2006, which was well over 10 years ago, has since subsided.
And you really wanted to get Mr. Blake Doncourt's goat. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And that's why you're
that way
here.
at that time.
And that's why you're here today, to get back at Mr. Doncourt.
No, I would not say that at all. As I said earlier, council, I'm not here because of residual resentment. I'm here because I've seen the flawed research process at Lush Fertilizer, and I'm testifying because of that flawed research process and the fact that I brought up concerns within my own notebook that Drufo actually may be carcinogenic.
So you have no ill will towards Mr. Doncourt?
Currently, no.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Very well, and you redirect.
A brief one, Your Honor. Mixers, let's focus on the happenings after your poor performance reports. Did you do anything to address these reports?
I thought they were unfair and biased, so I was put on probationary status with the company, and I went to talk to Mr. Doncourt about it.
And how did your conversation with Mr. Doncourt go?
Well, when I was talking with Doncourt's administrative assistant about going in to speak with them, I heard yelling from his office. Blake seemed really worked up about something, but I went in anyways.
Then what happened?
Well, I told Doncourt about my concerns and asked him to speak to my manager on my behalf.
Did you do anything?
Well, they told me that they were busy with other issues at the moment and that I had to deal with my work issues on my own.
How did you respond?
I realized I had no future at Lush Fertilizer, and so I applied at Terrace Greenery, its top competitor. When I began my employment there after being asked to leave Lush Fertilizer, a legal battle began.
What happened then?
A settlement was reached, and I had to wait 6 months to begin my new employment.
When did this occur?
December of 2006.
Mixed, how did you feel about the legal troubles and the settlement?
Well, initially I was upset and begrudgingly waited to work for Terrace Greenery. However, that was about 15 years ago.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. This is well within Mixter's scope of knowledge because they would be well aware of how they felt about the legal settlements and the troubles that occurred when they were leaving Terrace Greenery, Lush Fertilizer for Terrace Greenery.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the scope of his cross, and I'm going to agree with that, so I'm going to sustain.
Yes, Your Honor. Mixter, if not due to resentment, why are you testifying today?
I'm testifying today for the sake of truth and for integrity. Having witnessed
Your Honor,
flawed
outside
research.
scope once again.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Okay.
Counsel addressed all of the legal happenings and the issues with the legal settlement when Mixters left Lush Fertilizer for Terrace Greenery, which opened the door to this line of questioning because this line of questioning directly relates to those events.
I think what he asked was basically her bias and tried to establish bias, and you're trying to rebut that established bias. And so I'm going to permit it, but just keep it brief, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Mixters, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'll just continue. So as I said, I'm testifying for truth and integrity. Having witnessed the flawed research process that occurred within Lush Fertilizer, I can't simply stand by and watch as Lush gets away with harming the public.
Thank you, Mixters. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Ms. Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Dakota Weirs. And let's see if we can't get Dakota Weirs to show up on our screen. Dakota, please make a statement or something to pop you up so that we can see you.
Sorry, my computer was a little bit behind.
Don't need to be sorry. We're going to make it all work. I see you now. Ms. Weirs, you remain under oath. Ms. Bell, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Can you please state your name and spell the last for the record?
Dakota Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
And Ms. Weirs, will you please tell the jury a little bit about yourself?
I'm 20 years old. I was an active member of my community, from volunteering at my local homeless shelter to being the president of student government to even being a member of the National Honor Society.
Now, you use the past tense when describing your involvement with your community. Can you explain why that is?
I was recently diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, type of cancer that affects the germ-fighting immune system. This causes white blood cells to grow abnormally and form tumors throughout my body. You know, I used to always be involved in something, and now I can barely even help around the house.
And I know it's hard to quantify the impact of losing your livelihood, but can you explain to the jury the impact of losing the ability to be involved in extracurricular activities?
I was involved in various extracurricular activities, the most important to me being playing the piano. It's hard to just wake up each day and not being able to participate in the activities that make me into who I am as a person today.
And can you expand on that, Ms. Weirs?
From childhood, I was always enthralled by the baby grand piano my grandfather gave my parents. I would waddle over there and play with the foot pedals. It was the only part I was able to reach. I set up my toys in a fort and I just would stay there all day.
Please continue, Ms. Weirs.
When I was finally able to, I play little ditties that I wrote myself. Then my grandfather passed away.
Please take your time, but whenever you're ready. How did your grandfather passing away impact you playing the piano?
Playing the piano made me feel closer to him. He used to sit me on his knees and show me the different keys. Every time I would play, I was reminded of the love he had for me and this art.
And Ms. Weirs, can you please tell the jury about your 13 years of playing the piano?
Yes, I performed in many recitals and numerous competitions. I was even offered many scholarships and got a full ride to Juilliard, my dream school.
And Ms. Weirs, attending Juilliard must have been a dream come true. How was your experience at this school?
Unfortunately, the progression of my disease prevented me from attending. It was a crushing revelation following my diagnosis.
Have you continued to play following the progression of your cancer?
I have not. Not being able to play the piano devastates me every day. Due to the swollen lymph nodes, frequent chest pains, chills, fatigue, and severe shortness of breath, I simply don't have the strength to sit at extended periods of time at the piano.
And what is the emotional impact of not being able to play the piano?
It feels like I lost my grandfather a second time. I used to be able to feel close to him when I played. And that was taken from me by Lush Fertilizer.
And if it's all right with you, I'd like to turn your attention to Lush Fertilizer. Ms. Weirs, how are you connected to Lush Fertilizer?
I've been a landscaping technician at Haven Landscaping since I was 14 years old. Since I wasn't old enough to use the machinery, I would spread seed and fertilizers. One of the fertilizers I used was Lush Fertilizer.
Now, you say one of the fertilizer you used was Lush Fertilizer. Why does this one stick out to you?
Well, while the other fertilizers and chemicals had long-term warnings about the use and dangers, Lush Fertilizer did not.
And what was on this bag of Lush Fertilizer?
The ingredients in Lush Fertilizer and short-term warnings.
And how many long-term warnings were on this bag?
None.
Let the record reflect that we are all looking at our individual copies of Exhibit 1. Ms. Weirs, do you have Exhibit 1 in front of you?
Yes, I do.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain to the jury what it is?
This is a photograph of the bag of Lush Fertilizer that I received from my old boss at Haven Landscaping.
And does your boss have any reason to alter the bag, the logo of Lush Fertilizer?
He does not, as he's not a beneficiary of the outcome of the case.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of the photograph you received?
Yes, it is.
And to the best of your recollection, is it a fair and accurate copy of the logo of Lush Fertilizer?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe I've laid sufficient foundation and offer Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, to the best of your personal knowledge, why do you think Lush Fertilizer is responsible for your illness?
Well, there is this news story that exposed that this company had lied about the safety of its product. It particularly emphasized the negative impacts of Drufo. These documents actually connected Drufo to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And what did further research about Lush Fertilizer reveal?
It was revealed that this non-Hodgkin lymphoma chemical Drufo is actually outlawed in France, Haiti, Liberia, Canada, and Côte d'Ivoire.
Let the record reflect that we are all looking at our individual copies of what has been previously marked as Exhibit 2. Ms. Weirs, do you have Exhibit 2 in front of you?
Yes.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what it is?
This is a photograph of the bag Lush fertilizer ingredient sold in France and its English translation. Emphasized is the lack of the chemical compound Drufo.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of the logo?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I believe I've laid sufficient foundation and offer Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, hearsay and best evidence.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yeah, be
if I
more
may.
specific about the best evidence, if you wouldn't mind.
I believe in her witness statement, she's the one that transcribed these ingredients herself. And so we have no way of knowing if these are the actual ingredients, it is not a direct picture and copy of the ingredients listed on the back.
Okay, I think that's something going to on cross-examination. As far as the hearsay, help me understand why this is hearsay.
Because she wrote it out of court.
All right, and any response?
Yes, Your Honor. So this translation was actually given through a universal translator, Google Translate, which is offered to every witness here today. And to that hearsay objection individual, this is not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but particularly to emphasize the lack of a chemical compound Drufo and Lush bags sold in France.
All righty. I'm going to allow Exhibit 2. I'm going to admit Exhibit 2, and but you can cross-examine on this.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, how do you feel about the use of Drufo in Lush fertilizer?
I feel betrayed and shocked. I don't understand why a company would so willingly put its customers and the users of its product at risk. Drufo was proven to be harmful, and this company simply ignored that fact because it wasn't convenient.
And finally, why do you feel like Drufo specifically in Lush fertilizer caused your illness?
Well, non-Hodgkin lymphoma at its core is environmental, not genetic. I have a twin sibling, Skylar. We participate in identical activities besides my landscaping job. The only difference in the environments we had was my job.
Now, you mentioned your sibling, Skylar, so let's turn your attention to this relationship. What is the relationship with Skylar like?
To say my relationship with Skylar is strained is an understatement. Once my father stopped paying their gambling debts and instead turned towards my medical bills, they became resentful. They told me that I was ruining the family legacy because my medical bills are so costly.
And finally, as a plaintiff, as hard as it is, we must identify and quantify the damages that we are here for today. Let's turn our attention to those damages. How much restitution are you seeking?
I'm seeking $300,000.
Can you explain the inconvenience of you being affected by your cancer?
Simply that I'm unable to do anything because of my sickness. It's hard to even sit an extended period of time. I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Please continue with the damages, Ms. Weirs.
The emotional stress of this large company taking such a low blow by getting my only sibling to testify against me. My life has severely deteriorated. I can't do anything I used to love doing. I can't participate in extracurricular activities. I can't volunteer. I can't help around the house. And I can't even play the piano.
And finally, what other type of damages are you seeking here today?
Emotional damages. Losing the ability to play the piano. Feeling like I lost my grandfather a second time. Losing the opportunity to attend my dream school. It's just all been soul crushing. Lush Fertilizer took each and every one of these from me.
Thank you, Your Honor. That is all for the direct at this moment.
Well, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Weirs,
Hold on just a second, please. Let us get caught up here. All right, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Now I recognize that this is a difficult subject for you, so if at any time it gets to be too much, just let me know.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Weirs, you've worked at Haven Landscaping since you were about 14, is that correct?
Yes.
And during your time at Haven, you were primarily responsible for spreading seed and fertilizer?
Yes.
Because you were not old enough to use the machinery.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, you believe Lush fertilizer caused your cancer, correct?
Yes,
And this is because there's no warning or recommendation on the packaging.
and also the use of a carcinogenic chemical, Drufo.
Now I'd like to direct your attention back to Exhibit 1. If I could have my co-counsel screen share it, just so we are able to see it, if that's all right. All right. However, on the packaging, there are user safety recommendations, correct?
Yes, I do see that.
And these recommendations state to utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin.
Yes,
In addition, the recommendations state to utilize a respirator or mask, correct?
correct.
However, you didn't wear any masks.
I didn't, but if Lush Fertilizer specified the long-term warnings, my coworkers and I would have done things differently.
Of course, but you didn't wear any protective clothing or long sleeve shirts, correct?
No, I did not.
Because it was summer and it was way too hot to do that.
Yes,
And if I could have my co-counsel take it down. Your boss always told you to cover your face when working with chemicals, correct?
what my boss did give me recommendations, but whether he recommended or not, that is not the problem. My boss was not the one to give me cancer. Lush Fertilizer was.
Of course, but you didn't listen to him.
My coworkers and
Objection, argumentative.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm just asking for her response to her boss recommending to use a face mask. It
Yeah,
goes-
I know what you're asking. The question is, how is it not argumentative?
It goes to the negligence of the plaintiff.
Okay. Well, I'm going to overrule the objection. You're not arguing with the person anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
But you never covered your face, correct?
no, I did not follow these recommendations, but if Lush had specified the long-term warnings, then things would have been different.
You never covered your face because it was just too hot and the wind felt good.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, Lush Fertilizer isn't the only brand that you used.
While working as a landscaping technician, it is within my job qualification that I use numerous chemicals and fertilizers. However, while those fertilizers had long-term warnings about the use and dangers, Lush Fertilizer did not.
Of course. However, you did use several other fertilizers and long chemicals, correct?
Yes, that is correct, but those fertilizers lack the chemical Drufo, and Drufo is proven to be carcinogenic.
And while you use these chemicals, you also didn't wear any protective clothing.
No, I did not follow the recommendations my boss did say, and neither did my coworkers.
And pretty much everybody, including yourself, wore shirts and t-shirts.
That is correct.
I'd like to direct your attention to your twin sister, Skylar Weirs. You're concerned about your sister testifying against you, correct?
Yes.
And this is because Skylar is extremely smart.
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, if I may, I'm establishing credibility in the witness and her relationship with her twin sister that could go to bias.
Your Honor, if I may
I
respond.
think it's relevant. I'm going to permit it. Objection overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you like me to restate the question?
No, I'm good, thank you. I do believe my sister is intelligent, yes.
And do you think that the court will believe Skylar over you, correct?
Objection, speculation.
Your Honor, if I may, it's based on her rationally based perception.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Okay.
Thank you. The court should be able to go to their own conclusions on whether or not they think Skylar is more qualified than Dakota. I do not believe that these testimonies are mutually exclusive, and I don't think that we should be allowed to have one witness say the court should believe her or shouldn't believe her.
Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead. And this is it.
According to Rule 701A, I'm not trying to get Dakota to testify on what the court should believe. It's more Dakota's own perception on her sister's intelligence and credibility as a witness.
Yeah, I understand where you're going with this. I think I'm going to sustain this objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll move on. And Skylar has done extensive research on Drufo, correct?
Yes, she did about under a year.
And has had a series of articles published in a well-regarded scientific magazine.
Objection. Once again, this she's trying to have leading or questions that directly qualify or don't qualify another witness who will have the full opportunity to do this on a direct examination.
Response.
Your Honor, if I may, I'm just asking the witness her perception on her sister's credibility. It's something that has to do with the family relations and bias in the case that Skylar can't directly address on.
I think this is a fair line of questioning. Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you like me to restate the question, Ms. Weirs?
Yes, please.
And your sister Skylar has had a series of articles published in a scientific magazine that's well regarded in her field.
I'm aware of Skylar's journalistic career, yes.
And Skylar does have formidable research skills, correct?
Yes.
Objection, speculation.
Your Honor, if I may, it's under Rule 701A, it's based on her rationally based perception. She's her sister. She would have knowledge of her career.
If I may briefly, Your Honor.
She can testify to what she knows. I'm gonna permit it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
And Skylar has formidable research careers, correct?
Yes, she has done her own research, but also I did find a news story that Drufo is carcinogenic.
Of course. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. Any other direct at this point?
Yes, just one question, if you don't mind. Ms. Weirs, can you please explain your awareness of Skylar's career in journalism?
Yes, Skylar wrote numerous articles about anti-vax culture, chemtrails, flat earth theory, UFOs, and Drufo.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
Very well. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
The plaintiff rests, Your Honor.
Very well. Since we can't have halftime motions, we're going to go right past that to defense calling its first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
Dr. Devin Williams. If you would say something so that we can see your face on our screen here, that would be delightful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ah, there you are. All right, team. Very well. You remain under oath. You may proceed, Ms. Carlson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please state your name, spelling your last for the record.
Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
Now, you work as a toxicologist for Lush Fertilizer, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I'm actually the lead toxicologist at Lush of the Research and Development Labs.
How long have you worked at Lush Fertilizer?
I've been working for Lush for roughly 10 years and 7 of those as the lead toxicologist.
Now, what sort of education do you need to become a toxicologist?
I earned my bachelor's, master, and PhD relating to toxicology from the Colorado State University of Fort Collins. Additionally, I did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology through the University of Utah.
And do you have any certification relating to toxicology?
Yes, I do. I'm currently certified in the states of New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming, all relating to a variety of toxicology.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702, I move to admit this witness as an expert in toxicology and pharmacotoxicology.
Okay, toxicology and what?
Pharmacotoxicology.
Pharma toxicology. Any objection or voir dire?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. She will be admitted as an expert by this court in the areas of toxicology and pharmacotoxicology. You may continue.
Now, during your career, you helped develop Drufo, correct?
Yes, I've been developing Drufo for 10 years now.
What is Drufo?
Drufo is an ingredient found in lush fertilizer. It is a bonding agent.
And what makes Drufo, what was Drufo developed for?
Drufo is this revolutionary product that was developed to be an ingredient to prevent the pollution of nitrates.
Now, you mentioned Drufo was a revolutionary product. What makes you say that?
Drufo is revolutionary because it binds the ingredients of fertilizer to grass or other plants. Therefore, less fertilizer is being used in spray, resulting in a reduced amount of pollution.
How did regulation agencies react to this revolutionary product that's different?
Well, although Drufo in lush fertilizer has been accepted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture in the U.S., this product has been banned by the European Union due to this European Nitrates Directive.
What does that nitrate directive include?
Well, under the directive, no new fertilizer formulation may be used if it contributes more than the incidental nitrate accumulation in lab tests.
And why did Drufo not pass this?
Although Drufo greatly reduces the amount of nitrates that accumulate under the real world settings and conditions, there's still nitrogen in it, although Drufo reduces this pollution of nitrogen. However, in the lab setting, you can't just get as many nitrates as with any other regular fertilizer, but this is in a lab created setting rather than the real world.
And how would nitrate accumulation differ in the real world rather than from a lab setting?
In reality, Drufo reduces nitrates in nature to interrupt the process of pollution at the very beginning by being a bonding agent.
What other concerns caused the ban on Drufo in the EU?
The ban is primarily based on the pollution of nitrate, so it's not based on any concerns over cancer risk, if that's what you mean. So it was just the nitrate accumulation in this lab-created setting.
I see. I'd like to move on to studies done on Drufo. You were present when Dr. Casey Rogers testified about their study, correct?
Yes, I was here for that.
Have you formulated an opinion on Dr. Rogers' study?
Of course I have.
And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, Dr. Rogers' study doesn't hold a lot of merits as the study lacks both validity and reliability.
Why does Dr. Rogers' study lack validity?
The fundamental mistake that Dr. Rogers makes is that in layman terms, it's comparing apples to oranges, or in this study, comparing those who seldom use fertilizer to those who excessively use fertilizers, such as gardeners or landscapers. And these people have completely different lifestyles.
Why are the differences in lifestyles important?
Differences in lifestyles means different environments, which leads to different environmental exposures.
I see. Moving back, why does Dr. Rogers' study lack reliability?
Well, the study lacks reliability because, first off, it has not been peer-reviewed and, more importantly, replicated.
Why is replicability so important?
Replicability in studies are important because you want to identify an effect rather than the possibilities of chances. Additionally, having only one study can include a multitude of flaws and bias that can occur.
Dr. Williams, in your expert opinion, how valid is Dr. Rogers' study?
Dr. Rogers' study isn't valid whatsoever. The results are completely miscalculated as it's comparing completely two different environment exposures.
And in your expert opinion, how reliable is Dr. Rogers' study?
The study lacks reliability, as I've stated. It has not been replicated, which allows for any sliver of bias and flaws to be present.
Overall, in your expert opinion, is Dr. Rogers' study a good study on Drufo?
Absolutely not. The study lacks basic fundamental aspects of validity and reliability, and it's being used as a major miscalculations, and the conclusions are misused, as I stated.
And what is your opinion based on?
Well, through my training and experience as a toxicologist, I understand how to research and evaluate test results to determine the fate and effects of potential toxic chemical agents.
I see. While you were developing Drufo, what did the test results show for it?
All the data we looked at for the past 10 years was consistent with users of fertilizers that with Drufo have not any elevated risk of non-Hodgkin lymphoma compared to other fertilizers.
And through your years of experience and proximity to the study, how confident are you in that data?
Well, with 10 years of developing Drufo, the data we analyze have been below a normal confidence level. Drufo has not been correlated with any statistical significant increase in the incidence of non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other illnesses or cancer.
See, no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. Is there a cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, there is. If I may proceed, excuse me, if I may proceed, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Of course.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams, Your Honor, and members of the jury. My name is Kyle Branson. I'll be conducting your cross-examination. First, Doctor, I'd like to talk about why you're here today. You're employed by Lush.
That's right.
And of course, you're paid for your work at Lush.
Of course. I mean, any paying job would hopefully pay the employers.
And to clarify then, Doctor, you're being paid to be here?
Oh, that is outside the scope of my witness statement affidavit, but if you wish, I can answer.
Reasonably, as you're a paid employee of Lush, you would be being paid to be here, right?
Once more, that's still outside what my affidavit is, outside the scope, but I can attempt to answer your question if you wish, Counselor.
By being employed at Lush, I'll rephrase my question, I apologize, Doctor. By being employed at Lush, you're testifying on behalf of Lush today, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and you're telling the jury that Drufo's safe today?
I am, as I've done my 10 years with developing Drufo, I can say that Drufo is safe for consumers.
And you're the head of the Toxicology Research and Development Department at Lush?
Yes, I have been for the past 7 years.
Whose job is to determine the safety of Drufo?
That's right.
So, in other words, Doctor, your job depends on the safety of Drufo.
In a sense, yes, but we are developing Drufo for our consumers. So through my work as a toxicologist, I always want to make our product as safe as possible for both the company as well as, more importantly, our users.
Not only that, Doctor, but a court decision like this would reflect on your reputation as a scientist as well.
Yes.
Moving on, let's discuss the experiments both Dr. Casey Rogers and your company has done on Drufo. Your company ran multiple tests on Drufo,
Yes, we have.
and these tests determined Drufo was not harmful,
Yes, that's right.
but you're aware of Dr. Casey Rogers' study.
Yes, was present in the court as well as viewed over Dr. Rogers' study and how it lacks both validity and reliability.
So you personally looked over that study before coming into court today, right, doctor?
Well, within the scope of my affidavit, yes.
So that study that study concluded Drufo to be harmful.
Yes, however, the study lacks reliability as it hasn't been peer reviewed, and it's comparing two completely different environmental exposures. Since Dr. Rogers' study is looking at those who use fertilizers in general excessively, such as landscapers and farmers, to those who seldomly use it, it doesn't really look at, say, fertilizer that include Drufo and fertilizers that do not include Drufo.
Thank you, doctor. I will get into the validity of her study in just a moment, but let's review the actual procedures in her study first. So having reviewed the study, you're aware that Dr. Rogers' study followed human subjects?
Yes, that's right.
And she followed those subjects over a period of multiple years.
Yes.
So reasonably, one of your company's well-constructed experiments would have studied human subjects as well?
Yes, as part of our research and development.
So you are stating in court today that one of your studies at Lush used human subjects?
Well, that is outside the scope of my affidavit, as I don't mention that, no.
So do you have any idea whether or not Lush used human subjects to study the effects of Drufo?
Well, that is outside my witness statement. Would you like me to further explain it?
Doctor, I'm simply asking if you know of any if you know of any tests that used human subjects.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for unfair extrapolation.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah, I think the jury is going to make that determination. I don't rule on those things. You may discuss.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Panelists will take your discussion into consideration.
Your Honor, my question simply is asking whether she has the knowledge of any study that involved human subjects or not. And she can testify to the fact whether or not she knows of that information or not.
She's testified to the fact that it's not in her affidavit, and you're continuously trying to get her to admit to information that is not in there.
May I respond, Your Honor?
No, we're going to put an end to it. We're just going to let the scoring panelists decide what to do. So proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will move on. Moving on, Doctor, let's talk about the merits of Dr. Rogers' study. You believe that having a study peer reviewed is extremely important as well, right?
Yes, as any other studies that have been found in the scientific world, it should be peer reviewed to determine the conclusions are being correctly used or miscalculated, or if there's any bias that are included.
And you agree with me in saying that having your studies replicated is also important?
That's right. As with any studies looking at any scientific process, you want to be able to replicate those to be able to say this is the determined conclusions rather than having chances of any miscalculated information.
So having said that, have any of Lush's studies been published and peer reviewed?
Well, once more, Counselor, that is outside the scope of my affidavit, but I can further elaborate if you wish.
Please do.
Yes, Lush's through our research and development programs, our studies have been, as you stated, reviewed and replicated numerous times, about at least 10 sources.
I'll rephrase my question, Doctor. your company is the one to have reviewed those studies, correct? You included?
Oh, you wanted me to elaborate outside of my affidavit a bit. So
This is a
I'm
separate
not,
question, doctor. I'm asking, you reviewed the studies on Lush.
well, I mean, I was part of the research and lab. So of course, it's within my job.
And your colleagues reviewed them as well?
Yes.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, did anyone not on the payroll by Lush review those studies, or was it simply an internal study?
Like I stated, we had at least 10 other sources revealed this or information and studies.
Okay, that will be all for today, Your Honor.
Very well. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. What were the results of your numerous tests done on Drufo?
Well, through all tests, we deem that Drufo is first off non-carcinogenic, as well as that it's friendly user and safe for all consumers, but also reducing the pollution of nitrate.
How did your financial standings with the company affect the results of your test?
Although I am working for Lush Fertilizer, my financials doesn't really affect how I look and work into my bias or not.
Moving on, what were the issues of Dr. Rogers' study?
Well, since it's comparing two different environmental exposures of excessive fertilizer users, such as landscapers and farmers, to those who seldom use fertilizer, but the study is not relating to if the fertilizer includes Drufo as an ingredient or not. It is simply just comparing a general use of fertilizer.
And what is the importance of having your studies peer-reviewed?
Having a study peer review makes it more reliable, as you know that the results and the conclusions are not being biased or include flaws that can occur.
No further questions, Your Honor. Barring any recross, I'd ask that my witness be excused.
Very well. All right. You can step down. Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Skylar Weirs to the stand.
Skylar Weirs. Let's see, Skylar Weirs, if you will speak so that we can get your nice box into the right position so we can see you.
Hello, Your Honor.
Ah, there you are. All right. Let's see, this is Ms. Inks. All right, and you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
My name is Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
And Ms. Weirs, what is your occupation?
I'm an agricultural technology researcher.
Could you explain for us what agricultural technology researcher means?
Yes, I mean that I've been researching and writing articles about modern agritech.
What is agritech?
Agritech focuses on the development and application of agriculture advancements to increase agricultural efficiency and food safety.
Could you describe your familiarity with this topic of agritech?
Yes, I spent almost a year researching our agritech companies by reviewing publications written by those companies.
And Ms. Weirs, what other research did you do?
During that time, I also researched studies referenced in those publications and information maintained by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture.
And Ms. Weirs, how does your research intersect with this lawsuit?
I researched fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides that have several well-known carcinogens such as nitrates, glyphosate, and arsenic This included research into Drufo and ingredients of lush fertilizer.
Have you published any articles based on this research that you've done?
Yes.
And could you describe those publications for which you've written based off of your research?
I've written a series of articles on modern agritech. Specifically, I have written for Rationalist magazine.
Ms. Lewis, what is Rationalist magazine?
Rationalist magazine is a science education and advocacy quarterly publication.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702, based upon her knowledge, training, experience, and skill, I am tendering Skylar Weirs as a qualified expert witness in the field of modern agritech to render an opinion on the potential impacts and safety of pesticides, herbicides, and other agritech products.
Any objection or voir dire?
Yes, Your Honor. A brief voir dire.
Please.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. My name is Mackenzie Dana, and I will be conducting your voir dire at this time. You are being tendered as an expert in modern agritech.
Yes, I am.
And you don't have any degrees pertaining to agritech?
No, I do not, but I have spent a vast amount of time researching this.
You were assigned to write about modern agritech by your editor?
Yes.
And Drufo was just one part of that topic you were asked to cover?
Yes.
You would describe your knowledge base as containing general knowledge with some historical and statistical information?
Yes.
And you have only been researching modern agritech for about a year?
Yes, as I previously stated.
Your Honor, the plaintiff objects to Ms. Skylar Weirs being entered as an expert witness because she has no educational background in agritech, only contains what she describes as a general knowledge base, and has only been studying Drufo under the broad topic of agritech for about a year.
Any response?
Yes, Your Honor. Pursuant to Rule 702, which requires that my witness only meet one of the requisites in terms of being entered upon as an expert witness, my witness has shown to you and proved within her knowledge and experience. She's studied this one chemical for about a year, which is a good amount of time, as well as has done extensive research and written numerous publications for an accredited magazine, Rationalist magazine, and has proven in the foundation laid that she is qualified, therefore, to be an expert.
Counsel, I would ask you to address the 5 factors: knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education, which would qualify her, please.
Your Honor, I believe, or did you want an explanation for each of the variables?
If there is something, if there is a basis under each of those, if you would.
Yes, Your Honor. In terms of knowledge, my witness has done extensive research and has researched the degrees of which or has researched agritech as well for about a year experience. That also leans into her experience as an investigative journalist. It is her job and her career path to investigate agritech and study the effects, therefore, of agritech. Training, she has worked in her job for about a year now as an investigative journalist and has made it her life's passion and study. And as well as
education.
Oh, education. Yes, Your Honor. While my witness did not attend a traditional college setting, she did take the time to educate thereupon herself and do extensive research over the last year into agritech, and that is what she has driven and had her numerous articles that have been published written on.
All right. Ms. Mackenzie, Dana Kelly, if you would you address those particular factors as well, please? Let's begin with, I'll state them again for you: knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education.
Yes, Your Honor.
And how you think she falls short.
Pertaining to knowledge, Ms. Weirs only has had access to online research and has not actually gone in the field and tested any of these chemicals or studied these chemicals in person. This also pertains to skill, as all of her skills are directly limited to what she was able to find online. And she only has what she describes herself as a general knowledge base. They're not bringing much more to the table than anybody else present today. Furthermore, she does not have an educational background in anything pertaining to modern agritech, so she has not fulfilled the educational requirement.
I have reviewed the pretrial order signed by Judge Staub back in November of 2021. And it indicated that if defendant could show that Skylar Weirs spent considerable time researching agritech companies by reviewing publications written by those companies, research studies referenced in those publications, and information maintained by the USDA and NASDA. If those were confirmed, they would be sufficient to establish the witness has specialized knowledge beyond that held by the average juror, and the witness will be allowed to provide testimony under Rule 702. So I am going to, based upon that pretrial ruling and based upon the evidence I've heard today and arguments of counsel, both excellent, by the way, I am going to permit this witness to be qualified as an expert in modern agritech. And the jury can attribute weight as the jury sees fit to that testimony. You may proceed.
Ms. Weirs, we talked earlier about your research into agritech. Could you tell us more about the chemicals that you researched?
Yeah, I researched a variety of fertilizers and pesticides used to promote plant and crop growth.
And what do these fertilizers and pesticides do?
Their job is to promote plant growth and kill undesirable organisms like fungi, bacteria, and insects that threaten the health of the plant or crop.
Okay, so these chemicals are designed to help plants, but are they normal or are they harmful?
Well, by definition, they are poison. Virtually every fertilizer and pesticide has several well-known carcinogens, but on the whole, they are safer than they used to be.
And could you give us an example of a technology that helps fertilizers in this way?
Well, a very good example of a chemical that helps fertilizer is Drufo.
And Ms. Weirs, what is Drufo?
Drufo is a chemical developed by Lush Fertilizer to promote adhesion of fertilizer to plants and crops.
And are there any other benefits of Drufo that we should be aware of?
I guess there's one more Drufo benefit I should mention. Drufo is an effective pesticide, so Lush does not need to add pesticides like glyphosate and arsenic to its fertilizers.
And since you mentioned glyphosate and arsenic, what did your research reveal about the links between chemical use in fertilizers and cancer in humans?
We'll start with arsenic. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified arsenic definitively as carcinogenic to humans.
Okay, that's arsenic. What about glyphosate?
Glyphosate is similar, but not as bad. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified it as a possible carcinogen.
And finally, let's talk about Drufo. What did your research reveal about Drufo's potential risk as a carcinogen?
Well, in all my research, I did not find a single study that established with any level of certainty a causal link between Drufo exposure and cancer in humans.
And did your research reveal any benefits to Drufo regarding carcinogens and their effects on humans?
Yes, as I noted, Drufo obviates the need for Lush to add glyphosate and arsenic to its fertilizers, which removes one carcinogen and one potential carcinogen from the company's fertilizer.
And Ms. Weirs, based on the factors that you have researched on Drufo, as well as your expert opinion, do you think that it is possible to definitively say that Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by their exposure?
Objection. This is out of the scope of the witness's expertise. The witness has been entered as an expert in modern agritech, but cannot testify as to the effects on humans.
Response.
Your Honor, when I was entering my witness, I believe that what I entered my witness in as an expert in was in the field of modern agritech to render an opinion on the potential impacts and safety of pesticides, herbicides, and other agritech products.
Okay, yeah, that was fairly general on safety. Response, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The witness has been entered to testify on the safety of the environment, the safety of this technology on agriculture and environmental situations. However, the witness has not been entered as a medical professional and cannot testify as to the safety of these products on humans.
Response.
Your Honor, I believe that the grounds on which I entered my expert witness in with the potential impact and safety of pesticides, herbicides, and agritech products, that she does fall into the range to give an expert opinion regarding the effect of Drufo, which is a dangerous, or which is a chemical component that is being used in this case to definitive or to state the possible carcinogenicity of what we're debating today.
Would you be would you be offering possibly the opinion under Rule 701 as a lay opinion?
No, Your Honor. I believe that my witness is testifying as pursuant to her research done and her experience, knowledge, training, therefore, of her opinion into the fields of which she has been entered in, as to make an opinion that has been based off of the factors that she has researched in her field as to the answer to this question.
All right. It's probably a bridge too far, but I'm going to go ahead and allow it. May as well build in a reversible error into the case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Weirs, based on the factors that you have researched on Drufo, as well as your expert opinion, do you think that it is possible to definitively say that Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by their exposure to Drufo?
No, as I stated, my research found no definitive link between Drufo and cancer in humans. And there are at least 2 chemicals used in other fertilizers that are more closely linked to cancer.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. Let's talk about family now.
Okay.
What is your relationship with the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs?
Dakota and I are twins. We are siblings.
To be clear, Ms. Weirs, you're testifying against your sibling?
I am, reluctantly.
And why are you so reluctant?
I love Dakota, and I'm very sad that she has cancer, but I'm concerned that Dakota's blame has miscalculated her claim.
What do you mean that Dakota's blame is miscalculated?
I mean that in my opinion, Dakota is blaming her illness, on the one product, Drufo, that actually reduces the need for repaired exposure to harmful chemicals. It makes more sense to me that Dakota's non-Hodgkin lymphoma might have been caused from their exposure doing landscaping work to other products that contain known carcinogens.
And Ms. Weirs, is this opinion one you developed based off of your research into and the analysis of Agritech?
Yes, my opinion is based thoroughly on my research into Agritech.
And were the conclusions you reached developed in a manner consistent with methods used by others in your field of expertise?
Yes, I believe my methods are consistent with others who share my expertise.
Finally, Ms. Weirs, in your opinion, based on the Agritech research that you conducted and based on the testimony that you heard earlier today from Dakota in this trial, where might Dakota's blame for their non-Hodgkin lymphoma best be targeted?
I hesitate to point fingers, but in my opinion, Haven Landscaping, where Dakota worked for so many years, should not have allowed its employees to work with harmful chemicals without the regular use of protective gear. Again, I love Dakota dearly, and what's happened to her is horrible, but I know of no evidence that definitively links Dakota's illness to Drufo.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs, for your testimony. Your Honor, at this time, I have no further questions.
Well, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Hello once again, Ms. Weirs. Let's begin with your relationship to this case and the plaintiff's family, both personally and financially. Does your career in writing support you financially?
Well, I do have another job at Applebee's just to get my financial problems back together.
And do you have any specific habits that have caused financial problems?
Well, yes, I did have a gambling habit, but it was mostly related to sports just because I was allergic to grass and I couldn't actually go play sports. So it was just a connection.
Did your gambling habits lead to a, quote, financial hole, end quote?
Yeah, I did.
So far, you haven't been able to pull yourself out of that hole?
No.
Were your parents helping you?
Well, yeah, they were until my mom died, and then my dad completely cut me off.
And your parents are still helping Dakota, with whom you have a strained relationship?
Well, yes, she's sick.
Let's move on to Agritech. You studied modern agricultural products and their impact on the environment?
Yes, I did.
Do these modern products actually help the agricultural sector more than they harm it?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes. Do these products actually help the agricultural sector more than they harm it?
I'm not sure.
Do the benefits of these products outweigh the harms on the environment?
I'm not sure.
All right, let's move on. Are there risks associated with such products?
Well, obviously.
Many modern agricultural products contain pesticides and herbicides.
Yes.
Are pesticides and herbicides poison?
Well, yes, they are formed to kill living organisms such as insects and bacteria that are harmful to the plants and crops. That's the whole entire objective of these fertilizers.
So they are poison.
Yes.
Most commercial pesticides contain carcinogens.
Well, yes.
It's your opinion that no chemical fertilizer will ever be truly safe?
Yes.
Is lush fertilizer a chemical fertilizer?
Yes, it is, but it doesn't contain arsenic or glyphosate, which are the two more harmful carcinogens out of the three.
But it is a chemical fertilizer.
Yes, every fertilizer is chemical fertilizer.
Let's talk specifically about lush fertilizer and its main component, Drufo. Is Drufo a, quote, effective pesticide, end quote?
Yes, but it doesn't contain arsenic and glyphosate, which makes it a lot less risk of cancer.
But Drufo serves as an effective pesticide in the place of those other pesticides, correct?
Well, yes, but it's applied fewer times a year to make it less likely to cause cancer.
You stated earlier that most pesticides contain carcinogens.
Yes, multiple times.
So isn't it likely that Drufo contains cancer-causing properties because it is also an effective pesticide?
Yes, but it's a lot less likely than many of the other fertilizers being used by Haven Landscaping because
But it is likely.
Yes, but not as likely.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, what is the benefit of Drufo?
Well, Drufo doesn't contain arsenic, which is it's proven cancer causing, and it doesn't contain glyphosate, which is probably cancer causing, and it just contains nitrogen, and it only has to be applied a few times a year, which makes it a lot less utilized and at a risk.
And again, just based off of your expert opinion and based off of the research that you've done into the field of agritech as well as its possible side effects, what can you definitively state that Dakota's blame for their non-Hodgkin lymphoma best be targeted at Drufo?
Objection, leading.
Sorry, I can rephrase, Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead and rephrase that.
And Ms. Weirs, again, just based off of your agritech research you conducted, where do you believe that the blame best to be put for the non-Hodgkin lymphoma that we're debating today in Dakota Weirs?
Well, I cannot point fingers exactly, but I do believe his claim was miscalculated as Drufo, there's no definitive link to cancer.
And finally, Ms. Weirs, do you have anything that you want to say to your sister?
Well, obviously I'm here I support her still, but I just don't feel like it's right.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further redirect examination.
Well, and you may step down. Thank you. Call your next witness, please.
At this time, Your Honor, the defense would like to call Mr. Blake Doncourt to the stand.
Blake Doncourt. Let's see if I can get Blake Doncourt to say a few words so that we can get the screen up.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Ah, there you are. Very well. Mr. Doncourt, you remain under oath. Mr. Meyer, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Doncourt, can you state your name and spell the last for the record?
Yes, my name is Blake Doncourt, and my last name is spelled Doncourt.
If you don't mind, can you tell us what your occupation is?
Yes, I am the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated, and I have been so since 2000.
And when did you join Lush Fertilizer?
Like I said, in around 2000, I joined.
And can you describe your company in 2000?
Yes, Lush Fertilizer was a company at the time that was widely unknown to the public.
And how has your company developed since then?
Well, we've grown from our small roots to one of the largest commercial and yard fertilizer manufacturers in the world.
And we've heard a lot about Drufo today, but as CEO of the company that developed the chemical, can you tell us what it is in your own words?
Objection, lack of foundation. I do not believe that this witness has the foundation laid nor the qualifications to testify directly on Drufo.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, please.
Is the CEO of a company, and I believe that is well enough foundation. He has stated that he's been CEO for over 20 years now, and I think that that's plenty of foundation to know what his main flagship product, Drufo, is.
Well, yeah, it might be, but he hasn't testified that it is yet. So go ahead and lay a further foundation. Sustained as for now.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Blake Doncourt, do you know what Drufo is?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what Drufo is in your own words?
Yes, well, you actually said it perfectly, that it is our flagship ingredient in our products.
And why was Drufo created?
Well, it was created that we ensure our brand promise, which is to be entirely environmentally conscious. We also do focus on decreasing the Earth's nitrogen footprint.
And what kind of research has your company conducted that relates to Drufo?
Well, our company conducted extensive amounts of research on all of our fertilizer products. And now there are the claims about Drufo being potentially carcinogenic and being linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. However, our research turned up no data that could even conclude that same claim.
And how has your product evolved through all this research?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, if I may, I believe it's very relevant in how the product has developed over the years, because we are talking about if it's carcinogenic or not, and it is a main topic of today's trial, that the progression of the research and the development of the chemical should be pretty relevant to the case.
Well, I'll allow it to establish relevance, if you will, as early on as you can. So overrule.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Would you like me to restate the question, Mr. Doncourt?
Yes, please.
How did your product evolve from this research?
Well, because Drufo was proved definitively that it was not carcinogenic, we were given the freedom to use it in our fertilizer products. And on top of that, our fertilizers were certified by the EPA.
And how has your company been impacted by the claims of Drufo being carcinogenic?
Well, I personally haven't seen any scientific evidence that could link Drufo to any carcinogenic nature. So yeah.
And Mr. Doncourt, would you be okay with talking about past employees?
Yes.
I would like to talk about Carson Durst and how they relate to today's case.
All right, go ahead.
So how do they relate to today's case, Mr. Doncourt?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really understand that. Well, Carson, they initially started working for Lush as an intern, and their job was to actually detect if there are any possible dangers within our fertilizer, our fertilizer products. But as things go, we eventually had to let them go. And they took their training and experience from Lush Fertilizer and began working for our biggest competitor, Terra's Greenery.
And were you here today during Carson Durst's testimony?
Yes, I was.
What is the reaction to Carson's claims about Drufo being carcinogenic?
Well, one thing I know for sure is that these claims about Drufo being potentially carcinogenic didn't even come up until after Carson was fired and began working for Terrace Greenery. Carson had every single opportunity to bring any dangers to our attention, but they never did. We lent our email system to the plaintiff's lawyers and they found no message that could support her claim, or their claim, I'm sorry.
And so you saw when they brought up that email, correct?
Yes, I did.
I believe it's marked as Exhibit 4, if I'm correct. If that could be brought, if everybody can refer to Exhibit 4, that email. Mr. Doncourt, have you ever seen this email?
No, the first time I've seen this was when it was actually brought up today.
And you stated earlier that the plaintiff's lawyers were able to go through this?
Yes, the plaintiff's lawyers went through our entire email system and they found no messages that could support Carson's claim.
Objection, relevance. Once again, it was stated while entering this evidence that it wasn't offered for the truth of the matter asserted. I do not believe this line of questioning is entirely relevant.
Your Honor, if I may, I believe I'm allowed to question my witness about the authenticity, seeing as I did bring up the best evidence objection during the evidence being brought in, and I was allowed to bring it up and question it on direct.
Yeah, actually, it's your objection was not only a best evidence, but no evidence at all. And so, yeah, I'm going to permit this line of questioning. It's your objections overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. So you've never seen that email. How does this falsity make Carson look?
Objection, speculation.
Sorry, I'll reword, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm actually done with the email. You guys, we can direct our attention away from it now. How do you feel about Dakota Weirs in this lawsuit?
Well, I'm personally thankful that
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, I can reword my question.
Go ahead.
How does Dakota Weirs relate in this lawsuit to you?
Well, what I'd like to say first is that I'm thankful that her disease was discovered early and her road to recovery actually looks quite promising. But I'm confident that Lush had no cause in her illness whatsoever.
And why do you say Lush is not at fault?
Well, because Lush has a long history of producing safe and effective products, and we take great care with our research and development of such products. So again, I'm extremely confident that we were not the cause.
Thank you for your testimony here today, Mr. Doncourt. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Very well. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. And good afternoon, Mr. Blake Doncourt. My name is Emily Bell, and I'll be conducting your cross-examination at this time. Mr. Doncourt, is it true that you direct 10% of all annual profits to charities that reduce the world's global nitrogen footprint?
That is correct, yes.
But don't 100% of your profits come from selling a nitrogen-based product, such as fertilizer?
Yes.
And due to auditing 10% of all profits, you were personally nominated for the United Nations Champions of Earth Award 2021.
Your Honor, relevance?
Your Honor, if I may.
Sure.
Your Honor, this goes to the character and the intent of Blake Doncourt being here today. Furthermore, this line of questioning was also open with a direct examination talking about how Blake Doncourt interacted with charities and such.
I'm going to allow it. I think she's headed towards a level of impeachment or credibility, and I'm going to permit that. So overruled.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Doncourt, would you like me to repeat my question?
Yes, please.
And due to allotting 10% of all annual profits, you are personally nominated for the United Nations Champions of Earth Award 2021, correct?
Yes, I was.
But you didn't win that award because of this lawsuit.
That is correct.
So let's turn our attention now to the safety of Lush fertilizer. You state that there is, quote, no valid evidence that directly links the use of Lush fertilizer to cancer, correct?
Yes.
And you go further to state that you never seen any scientific evidence showing even a reasonable probability that Drufo is carcinogenic.
Yes.
But you are aware of Dr. Casey Rogers' study that does in fact link Drufo to being carcinogenic.
Yes, I am aware.
And you didn't personally investigate any such claims that stemmed from this study.
No, I did not.
But you didn't personally ensure that your company, multi-million-dollar Lush fertilizer, investigate any claims that stemmed from the study.
No.
So let's turn now our attention to your personal connections in this case. Dr. Devin Williams, your employee who had the job to ensure that Lush fertilizer wasn't carcinogenic, is on your payroll, correct?
Yes.
And the plaintiff's only sibling, Skylar Weirs, is testifying here today on behalf of Lush fertilizer, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And as CEO of the company being sued, it is reasonable to assume that everyone assembled on the defense today is on your payroll, correct?
Yes, as well, we are defending the product, so it would make sense.
Thank you. And let's look towards your personal financials now, if you don't mind. Are financials important to you personally?
Well, I am running a business here, so I would argue that financials are very important.
And you make plenty of money for personal matters?
I wouldn't say personal
relevance.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. So as CEO of the company being sued, financial intent are imperative within this case, and having a foundation and establishing the financial intent of the CEO being sued is important.
Your Honor, if I may,
please
believe what Mr. Doncourt, if the circumstances regarding Mr. Doncourt's financial stability as a person relates anything to this court case today, seeing as we are talking about Lush fertilizer being at risk or having a product being called carcinogenic, there is no relation between his financial stability and that.
Ms. Bell, are you going to establish a little bit more of a connection between those two pieces?
Yes, I do intend to.
I will allow it, but I'm also going to allow Mr. Mayor to renew his objection if you don't quite get there.
Yes,
I understand. Thank you, Your Honor. Would you like me to repeat my question, Mr. Doncourt?
Yes, please.
Do you make plenty of money for personal matters?
Yes.
And are financials important to you on a company level?
Yes, they are.
And because they're important, you cut a necessary safety measure, correct?
I wouldn't say necessary safety measure, but sure.
And this measure includes properly treating fertilizer by baking it, yes?
Yes.
But you stated baking our fertilizer is costly, correct?
Is pretty costly for our company, yes.
And baking the fertilizer still, quote, would remove any risk that our fertilizer was carcinogenic.
Yes, but if there is a little risk, there's no reason to bake a product at all.
But a little risk is still a risk that exists, correct?
Sure, it's still there, but again, it is very little risk.
And you didn't bake the fertilizer because it was, quote, too expensive, correct?
Well, yes, I am running a business here and I'm looking out for my company.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
Well, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Briefly. Mr. Doncourt, when was the first time you heard about Casey Rogers' study about Drufo?
Well, in today's litigation, that's really the first time I think anybody has even heard of that study.
So can you explain how you were reasonably expected to have your researchers research a study that only got brought up in today's litigation?
Well, I don't know how that could happen because like you were saying, it was only brought up in today's litigation.
And may I ask, why didn't you bake your product?
Well, as I was saying, when the other attorney was asking me, there's little risk enough, and I'm looking out for the profits of our company, but also a little risk is not enough to justify baking something. So I like the phrase, there's no reason to fix what isn't already broken.
That's best said. And no further questions at this time, Your Honor. And barring no recross, I ask that my witness be able to step down from the stand.
Right, and you may step down.
And at
Thank
this
you very much. Please call your next witness.
At this time, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Very well. And since there are no possible allowances for post testimony motions, we will dispense with those. And we will proceed directly into closing argument. How are we doing it time-wise, timers? I see it's 3:18, so I think we're doing pretty good on this piece. All righty. Our timers are missing in action. So what I shall do is allow the, see if we can't get the opening statement or not opening, the first closing statement, closing argument on behalf of the defense. Is the defense ready to proceed? Up, plaintiff. I don't know why I said defense. I just replayed the tape in my head saying, that's not right. Plaintiff closing, yes. Are you ready to proceed? Is it you, Ms. Bell, that's going to offer this?
I guess it is, Your Honor. And before I begin, I would just like to make sure everyone can still hear and see me all right.
Yes, actually I can. Maybe if someone cannot, please let us know. And if the scoring panelists would basically turn on their video camera but remain muted, that would be delightful, so that our Ms. Bell can then have a little bit of eye contact with you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. All right. And hearing no objection due to technical errors, I will begin. Opposing counsel, members of the jury, and esteemed judge, we are here to establish truth, and in doing so, justice. We are here to ensure that the negligence of Lush Fertilizer is not ignored, and we are here to ensure that the damage done to Ms. Weir's life due to Lush Fertilizer is not ignored. We are here to establish truth, and in doing so, justice. And the truth revealed through this case by a preponderance of evidence is that Lush was, in fact, negligent. However, first, I would like to refocus you on the life we are impacting today. Dakota Weirs, a young woman who was just figuring out life on her own. Lush Fertilizer not only poisoned the life of Miss Weirs, but the livelihood of everything she held dear. Now, she struggles to even hold herself up. Lush Fertilizer insists that there's simply no way their product is carcinogenic, but if it was, Dakota Weirs is at fault. But the plaintiff called up 3 witnesses that prove 4 key elements. 1, Lush made a dangerous product. 2, Lush failed to bake the product, which would have eliminated the risk. 3, Dakota, working for a landscaping company, used Lush. And finally, 4, Dakota is now suffering the damages done by Lush Fertilizer. First, you heard from Dr. Casey Rogers, who proved the connection between Drufo being carcinogenic. Dr. Rogers studied people for a number of years to truly evaluate a risk in Drufo. She proved that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You then heard from Carson Durst, a former employee of Lush who found the risk of Drufo and brought these dangers to the attention of Lush management, only to be told to quiet down, to protect the credibility of Lush Fertilizer, proving Lush was aware that Drufo can lead to cancer. And finally, you heard from the victim of this case, Dakota Weirs. You lived her life of countless accomplishments, only for her future to be ripped away at the roots. Her life was forever changed by her cancer. She is clearly suffering because of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma caused by Lush Fertilizer. But the defense wants you to believe the word of bought testimony and claims intertwined with the disastrous roots of their case: spite, negligence, and ego. There was spite stemming from every word Skylar Weir spoke. She has a personal stake in this case, a misplaced testimony from an unqualified biased witness. If her sister were to get much needed recompense, the gambling debts of Skylar Weirs will continue to go unpaid. She even stated during cross-examination that Drufo is a poison, but continues to testify because Lush is filling her pockets as an expert witness. Ms. Skylar Weir's personal relationship is impacting her professional one intertwined with spite. You then heard from Dr. Devin Williams, the head of toxicology at Lush Fertilizer. Her obligation was to ensure that Lush was not carcinogenic. Her blatant negligence, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is the reason we are here today. It was revealed through cross-examination that Dr. Williams completed 0 follow-ups when another study revealed that Lush was carcinogenic. She is on the payroll of the CEO, making her testimony biased. Her inability to perform adequate studies nor complete any type of research that discredits Dr. Casey Rogers was an act of negligence, a permanent, miscalculated error. Negligence surrounded Lush and all its employees. And finally, you heard from Mr. Blake Doncourt, a disgruntled CEO who was knocked out of the running for the 2021 Champions of Earth Award. Mr. Doncourt's testimony is twisted with ego, an ego that put profit over safety. In fact, they state, quote, baking the fertilizer would remove any risk that our fertilizer was carcinogenic, but the baking process was just too expensive. He is paying everyone here today to say the precise thing to avoid the truth. The ego of Blake Doncourt got in the way of human decency and safety, a misuse that follows him through this lawsuit. Spite, negligence, and ego, intertwined with the defense's case like a vine on a tree, choking the life out of Miss Weirs a second time, forcing her to seek recompense for emotional damages, inconvenience, and emotional stress amounting to $300,000. Emotional stress. There is an emotional stress from a drastic change in quality of life. Miss Dakota Weirs physically cannot participate in the activities that made her into the accomplished young woman she is today. Inconvenience. Being unable to complete anything nor sit at one place for an extended period of time is, at its most basic level, inconvenient. And finally, emotional damages. It was heartbreaking to be unable to attend the school of Miss Weir's dreams, Juilliard. But members of the jury, we all have someone in our lives we are close to, someone who mentored us, someone who we love. For Dakota Weirs, it was her grandpa, taken from her years ago. But because of Lush Fertilizer, she feels he is taken from her all over again. This is more than emotionally damaging. This is emotionally traumatizing. We, members of the jury and the esteemed judge, are here to establish truth, and in doing so, justice. And the truth is, Lush was negligent. But now, with the truth brought to light, we can bring justice. I urge you to find Lush liable because spite, negligence, and ego do not and should not make a case. Truth does. Thank you.
Okay, timekeeper, how much time does she have left should she decide to do a rebuttal argument?
She had 5 minutes on the dot.
5 minutes on the dot. Wow, who could have thought? All righty, thank you for that. Is there a closing on behalf of the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor. Give me just a second. My camera looked a little bit.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Whenever you're ready, Your Honor.
You may proceed, sir.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. My name is Brendan Maher, and today you heard about a case that is simply miscalculated, misplaced, and misused. It is truly a tragedy what happened to Dakota Weirs, and I don't believe anybody's going to refute that. It is horrible, but I have to urge you guys to push past sympathy. If I may, I want to turn your attention to jury instruction number 13, where it states that you must not be influenced by sympathy, bias, or prejudice for or against any party in this case. And that includes Dakota Weirs. I understand that it is easy to go with them on sympathy, but you need to push past that. First, I want to talk about this case being miscalculated. You heard from our expert witness, Dr. Devin Williams, about the validity and reliability of Casey Rogers as a researcher and their study in general. Where Casey Rogers lacked even a single peer review, our expert, Dr. Devin Williams, had 10 peer-reviewed studies. Not one, not two, 10. And even talked about how Casey Rogers failed to account for other chemicals and or replicate or have any peer-reviewed study at all. That is purely just not valid or reliable. Now, let's talk about it being misplaced. Skylar Weirs, another one of our experts in agritech, testified to how Drufo was misplaced among a category of carcinogens and how it just simply does not belong. You also heard from Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush, that testified to his product being safe and that he truly believes in it. Lastly, I want to talk about it being misused, this case. Dakota Weirs, it's a tragedy, but they didn't follow any of the precautionary measures that they were told to. They didn't wear long sleeves. They didn't cover their face. They wanted to feel the wind on their face. They failed to follow their boss's instructions. We also saw Carson Durst testify about they misused their training and took it from Lush to Terrace Greenery just to get back at Mr. Doncourt. As the defense, we do not hold the burden of proof. That lies solely upon the plaintiff. And I would like to turn your attention to jury instruction number 2, where there is 4 key elements that needed to be proved today. First, that Drufo is in the product. Second, that Lush Fertilizer was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent unreasonable harm for those intended to use their product. Third, that the plaintiff was that intended target, and that the plaintiff had damages that were caused by the defendant's negligence while the product was being used in a manner that the defendant should reasonably have been expected. But I don't believe we heard today anything about Dakota Weirs or anybody being the target audience of Lush Fertilizer. Nobody talked about it being targeted at individuals, businesses, companies, anything. That was not brought up here today. We, as the defense, recognize that Mrs. Weirs' non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a tragedy, and I don't believe that it is being argued today in court that it isn't. But the issue of causation is the issue being argued, and Lush Fertilizer Incorporated is not reasonable or responsible. And through our affirmative defense, I ask that you must plead for the defense. Thank you, Your Honor.
You. And a rebuttal on behalf of the plaintiff.
Your Honor, I believe I have less than a second left, so I do not believe I have enough time.
Oh, I thought I heard, oh, I see. Thought I heard that you had 5 minutes on the, okay, so less than a second. You can't even say hello.
I cannot.
Very well, then we are where we are. Let me see. I see the time as 3:30. Wow, we are in good shape here. I think time-wise, hot dog. I began by saying that we probably wasn't going to have time for comments, but I think I'm going to reconsider that since we got a little time. So unless you guys want to be dismissed, I'd like to hear from our scoring panelists to see if they have anything to offer. But first of all, while they are finishing their scores, I would like to say a few things just because I can fill that void a little bit with some commentary. First of all, there is no question in my mind why you folks are at this level. You are phenomenal. Let me just begin by saying that, and I use that term rarely, but I say it this time. You've done an amazing job. I have judged this competition for, I don't know, something like 15 years now, and I can tell you that I also judge the law school competitions. You guys are a natural progression right straight into law school. Go to college first, really, trust me on that. But if you choose to go into the law, understand that you will you'll find a welcome a welcoming place among the rest of your colleagues. First of all, your professionalism was amazing. Your questioning was amazing. You all did wonderful things on your themes. There were things that kind of wanted to throw you off when things were going well. I kind of messed you up a little bit on purpose just to see how you would do. So in case you're saying, gee, that was a lousy ruling. Yeah, it was. Boy, I'm trying to do. Oh, one other thing. Right now, I think a lot of you are concerned, gee, are we going to win? Are we going to move forward? And that's your main concern is some sort of a next victory. Let me assure you, you have already won. And I'm going to tell you why. In 20 years from now, not really anybody's going to care whether you won this or not. It won't make that much difference to you even then. But 20 years from now, let me tell you what will make a difference, a big one, is the incredible experience that you have gotten by getting this far in this competition. You can stand on your feet in front of scary people and do scary things and react back and forth with unintended questions and slippery witnesses and all the other kind of things that occur. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter if you're in the law or not. If you're in the courtroom or the boardroom, or if you're standing in front of a 4-star general, as I have done, I can tell you, if you can, in fact, hold your own in these kinds of environments, you can do it there, and you can stand out as a rising star. So I want to congratulate you. I wish I was there to applaud you so that you could actually hear it better, but I will tell you that you've done an amazing, amazing work. I'm going to shut up now. And I would like to see if our scoring panelists are willing to spend a little time with you. It's 3:34. We still got a few minutes.
Sure, I have a couple comments just to.
Please.
Obviously, well done by everybody. You guys are so good. There's times during this mock trial where I was listening so intently and so into it because you guys were doing so good. I forgot for a second it was a mock trial. I mean, literally, it was so engaging at times. Witnesses, oh my gosh. I mean, these witnesses, you guys were so well prepared and so engaged and handled the direct and cross-examination so well, so believable. Just extraordinary. I like the fact that your themes were clear. So, profit over safety was clear throughout, from the beginning of the trial to the end of the trial, right? You opened up with it, you closed with it. Defendants, miscalculated, misguided, misplaced. You started with it, you carried this theme through it, and you ended with it. I think that's just really good lawyering. So those are my comments.
Wow, thank you. One of our other scoring panelists, please.
Yeah, I'll offer a few comments, Your Honor. I'd like to commend the witnesses. I think the attorneys can do a lot in terms of setting up how they want the story to go. They can work with their witnesses a lot so that there's rapport. But really, it comes down to the witness and the way the witness delivers the testimony that can really make or break the credibility. And we saw some really exceptional witness performances this afternoon. And it really demonstrated how much time the witnesses especially spent knowing their statements and knowing the statements of the other witnesses and how they could either refute the testimony or the statements of the other witnesses, or how they could build on the other witnesses that were on the same side. So that was done very well. For the attorneys, objections are always a challenge. It's a skill as much as an art. But what we saw here this afternoon was really an effective use of objections, both to establish technical issues, but also to interfere somewhat strategically right, with the flow of testimony. We also saw the attorneys really managing their emotions in those objection scenarios, really working with the judge and really not taking it personally how the rulings may have come out, because you had a larger role, a larger job to fulfill here, not just winning every objection. So I thought those little skirmishes over the objections were handled very well. And to reiterate Mr. Wathen's statements about the theme, I think being able to provide your jury or your fact finder with a couple hooks to hang the testimony on and to reiterate those throughout, just so that the fact finder doesn't drift off and forget about them, as opposed to just at the opening and just at the closing, can be really effective to provide that through connectivity throughout the testimony. And we had a couple great examples of that as well. So I think to reiterate what Judge Ledbetter said, you can tell how much preparation has gone into this and how much care each of you put into your performance. So you all should be congratulated for that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. One of our other scoring panelists. I think we had 4, so we might have a couple more that wish to weigh in. I know that Claire Song had a video issue, but could hear and see without a problem. You don't have to have your video on, Ms. Song, if you wish to speak. As a reminder, did everyone press submit on their scores just to be really sure that no one's waiting on us here at this point? Well, gosh, that looks like that may be about it for us. Again, I want to just say what a wonderful privilege it is to encounter you guys. If you choose at some point to be involved further in legal trial competitions, either with your schools or possibly further down the road, I just might see you again. And if I do, I would hope to, because what I see before me today was an amazing array of highly talented people. And it doesn't matter to me what you go into as a life's cause, whether you be one type of professional or another, you're going to eventually need to stand up in front of somebody who's big and scary and make your point. And you've all done an amazing job today. You've dealt with adversity. You've dealt with technical glitches beautifully. You've dealt with surprises, some of which were thrown at you, some of which were a little bit accidental, but you've dealt with them amazingly well. It is now 3:41. Why don't you guys take a nice deep breath, relax, and chill out a bit for the next scores to roll in. I wish you all the best. I probably won't see you in this competition again. I think this is my last episode for judging for me, but I hope to see you again in another setting. So take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Judge. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
And our scoring panelists need to stay in the room until we hear from Melissa. Oh, there she is.
I'm here.
How are we doing?
We are dismissed. Our scores are in.
Oh,
Okay.
yay.
Yes.
Okay, so our panelists are dismissed as well. It's been a
Yes.
delight. You guys are all wonderful. Thank you.
Your Honor. Have a
Melissa
wonderful
is
day.
amazing as usual. Oh my gosh, what a treasure you are.
As always, Judge Ledbetter, thank you so much. We shall talk soon.
Yes.
and my husband says hi.
Hi, Judge.
Hi, and there's the assistant.
Yes. Yes. Well, after 35 years, he retired as an attorney.
Oh my. Well, yes, I'm just tired.
I know. Well, We're actually, I'm doing this from Mexico now. We moved to Mexico.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. So
how has it been? Have you enjoyed that?
it's fantastic, right? We absolutely love it here. And
I remember where you and I were standing.
yes, and I told you
when you gave me this bit of information. Oh my goodness.
So we love it. And frankly, I went back to work full time for the Bar Association once we got down here. So I'm back working full time for the bar from here.
How delightful.
It's fantastic down here. We absolutely love it. And
no snow.
Oh, wow.
And there's no snow.
Yeah, there is that, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh my.
So anyway, it was a pleasure to spend my weekend with you. Yes,
well, you have been a blessing to me and to this program for so long. It is such a joy to have you still being involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And hopefully I'll see you in next year.
Yes. Yeah, if they allow me back, I'll be back.
That's what I say.
I'm thinking
you want me back, here I'll be.
I can push my I think I've got 15 years or longer. I don't know. A very long time. I'm going to see if I can't put together a record.
That would be fantastic.
Thank you so much.
We'll see.